Hey, 372 pages is something we wish this book were, which it is not. Much longer than that. I am Michael J. Nelson, along with Connor Listoka. Hello, Connor.
We're talking about the Ready Player 2, right? That's 365 pages.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking. You know what? I've got the E thing.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, so it's my fault. It's the formatting of my ebook makes it look much, much, much longer.
138,000 pages. That's the word count, Mike.
No, hang on here. Let me give you the page count. I'm at the Penguin Random House imprint at the end.
Yeah.
493 pages.
Okay, weird.
Yeah. So that's just, it's a format thing. All right, so one of us wishes it were 372 pages. One of us hopes that it is not.
Well, I kind of wish it was, because then it would have been a sort of a possible middle finger to us. I'm not sure.
How did they miss that? Just in terms of why not do it? You're a couple pages away.
Why not shout out the podcast with a couple dozen iTunes reviews who have devoted 20 hours to talking about how terrible an author you are?
He has many other references.
I suppose,
what's one more?
Well, I mean, giving people the satisfaction, I suppose. What's he going to do?
Yeah. Well, tell everyone about the podcast and the book, and then we'll start off on this adventure.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just joining the podcast in its 91st episode, I'm not sure what exactly to say to you. I hope your recent head injury recovery is going well, but me and Mike are going to read books, for the most part, that we don't expect to care for. Some of them we end up liking better than others. Some of them we end up having great affection for, and the rest are written by Ernest Cline. We started the podcast with Ready Player 1, and then continued on with his follow-up book Armada, and we were blessed this year in a year that has given us so much and asked so little of us for it to appear with this gift in its waning days was really just I'm not going to tear up. I told myself I wouldn't tear up, but
I think, again, I've referenced it a lot. Everyone knows it's one of my favorites. I think of Macbeth describing sleep. That's how I describe an Ernest Cline book. Great nourisher in life's great feast. A balm of hurt minds. Just yes, an absolute. There is a balm in Gilead, and it is Ernest Cline and a new book of his. So we're very happy to dive in, and we have so much to do.
Macbeth, said H. I looked at her with a grin crawling across my face. I knew that she probably only knew it as a theater student by its alternate name, the Scottish play. Sorry, it's hard to turn off.
Oh, God. How much of your brain is it occupying at this point?
I just worry because there's things that I want to do to point out things in this book, and the easiest way to put them into terms you would understand would be in the to reference another popular work, and it's just soured me on that as a form of relating to people, of expressing ideas, even though it's perfectly normal, and but it just makes you feel bad to do it.
Yeah, I guess it's, if someone presents you with a deliciously prepared prime rib and then forces you to eat 6 pounds of it.
Sure.
I'm generally in favor of this, but this is the wrong way to go about this.
Right. Or, sure, I like prime rib. Where are we going? Oh, we're going to Golden Corral, and you're going to make me eat all 6 pounds of it. Well, this has taken quite a turn. I notice you have a gun pointed at my head as well, so.
All right. So for the show today, though, we have mostly everything, right? We have, we have real or fanfic.
Oh, absolutely. People are stepping up and just piling up in droves like the letters to Santa in that movie.
And I was waiting for you to sort of cline it to the end there with some other reference.
Is it Miracle on 34th Street? Sure.
Yeah.
It took place at Macy's, which was won the department store wars over Gimbel's. Gimbel's was named after Frederick Gimbel, who was a...
Well, it would have to be like that movie Miracle on 34th Street, which shows up in the bottom left corner of a TV in Weird Science in the third in the third reel.
Right.
But yeah, there's and for Patreon people, a little pitch for our Patreon is we're going to do a special. You're going to get some real or fanfic today as well, although, unless you're a Patreon person, you will not get access to it. But so much fanfic that we had to expand it into a bonus episode. So that'll be happening as well.
It'll become our third spin-off podcast here.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't want to tip the hand, but something special coming along on the Patreon too by the end of the year. You'll want to stay tuned if that's intriguing to you.
Something very special. I think probably the biggest project we've ever undertaken.
Oh my God! Well, collectively, yes.
Yes.
The project we're most proud of.
Well, I didn't say that.
Okay, yes, just checking.
I said biggest.
But yeah, so that's exciting stuff. And we also have dumb sentences of the week, which of course are piling up next to the letters to Santa. And we have some interesting emails that people have written in, some theories, some discoveries they've made, some tying it into past books we've read. So all sorts of good stuff to come. But we've got, I think, 6 chapters of this to wade through, to trudge through.
Yes, indeed. 6 chapters. And, well, I will, spoiler, I think I take fewer notes as it goes on because he's just checking boxes. And there's, I think that last chapter that we read, which is what? Is that chapter 9?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fewer.
Not a short chapter.
Fewer notes there, though, because I don't know, it just was like, Not as much delight and surprise. But there's plenty in it. I'm not saying that.
I don't think we're going to have a lack for things to talk about, but I do agree. You sort of like, you start to realize what he's doing. But there's a new pattern that I've sort of picked up on in this section that I'm ashamed for not noticing before, but it's going to be a good one to talk about. And, he does some interesting stuff in this. So we should probably delve right into it.
Interesting stuff. Oh, all right. Now I'm on the edge of my seat. All right, go ahead.
Well, I mean, he doesn't necessarily play it safe, I would say, in some of these parts. Does he play it well? He does not. However, he takes what I believe he thinks is a pretty big risk. So
I am, I'm intrigued. All right.
Well, it starts with chapter 5, and our story to this point is Ready Player One again.
Yes.
But for the most part, Wade has inherited the control of the Oasis. He's found a new helmet that allows people to experience, the Oasis, but better. And he's estranged from Artemis because of his embracing of this new technology. He's estranged from everybody. He lives a Howard Hughes-like existence. But he's in the middle of a new treasure hunt, and someone has just written in to tell him that they think they know where he can find the first shard, because he's now and not a Gunter, he's a Sharter.
I should add that he is also the active CEO of the largest company on the planet. It's not a lot of the details of being the CEO of the largest company on the planet. That's sort of a lot of hand waving there. But I'm just pointing out that is true, right? He's also doing that.
Yes, it's just something
as he's questing
to keep in mind as all this happens. Yes.
Yes, he's sharding and CEOing at the same time.
But yeah, so
my first note is on meeting this Lohengrin.
Lohengrin is how I would say it.
Okay, I believe that is how Wagner said it as well. She was seated about a meter away wearing her trademark Legend of Billie Jean attire.
Yeah.
So the trademark of the Legend of Billie Jean belongs to some person named Lohengrin who plays a lot of video games, who's 19 years old.
Yes. Yeah.
Her trademark.
It's okay. But he's also, if we can just, back to the last chapter, I believe he said she was the one who was known for changing her avatar's appearance and, gender on the fly. So I'm not sure how that factors into that thing, which was the first thing he established about the character. But then again, the man is not known for his consistency.
No, yes. Until this point. Now, this is her new trademark, I guess. But her old trademark was switching. Now it's this.
You will not believe it. I had to look up Legend of Billie Jean.
I have a vague notion that I know what that is, but go ahead.
I mean, it's a movie about, it sort of seemed like Badlands, Natural Born Killers, crime duo captures the imagination of a nation, I think, and they're sort of outlaws.
Helen Slater?
Yeah,
maybe?
I didn't know that. Is that Christian Slater's sister?
Yes.
I did not know that he had that she was, I guess, is he her Frank Stallone, or is it reversed? Was she there first?
I think she came out of the gate hot.
So it's an Eric Roberts situation.
Wasn't she like Supergirl? And yeah, I guess an Eric Roberts situation is a good one. Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it's her trademark. That's important.
Yes.
But yeah, so he's watching them in their hangout. He says they go to, I guess he is in Ogden's house, his basement.
Yeah, I can no longer keep track of the many rooms in which he's stuffed inside of a spider coffin right now. Right? He's
inside his spider coffin with bazookas attached to it, which is down a Pepsi tunnel in his back cave.
Yeah,
but then he's in a town where there's 256 replicas of either Ogden's or Halliday's house for whatever reason. So
replicas everywhere, yes, and then chat rooms. So windows are floating all over. I don't know where the windows are or where anyone is, but they're in their secret lair. Her little group.
Yeah, he can be in a place, but then also be eavesdropping in a chat room, which makes it weird that he keeps having to spirit away to the towers of the Columbus headquarters to engage in virtual meetings with Faisal. But that's a discussion for a later chapter.
Right.
This was the first thing that I noticed that I alluded to earlier. It says, and this is just I'll just read it. They gathered here after school and on the weekends to escape to other worlds via dozens of tabletop role-playing games. Ogg's basement would also later serve as the first office of Gregarious Games, the company that Halliday and Morrow co-founded after high school, which evolved into GSS a few decades later when they launched the Oasis. And we've hit on this before, but the telling us stuff that you've already told us is just out of control in this once you have started to notice it.
It is bananas at this point. I'll start with mine. That I said this is just a macro at this point.
Yeah.
Like everything else in the Middletown simulation, Ogg's basement looked just like the real thing back in the late 1980s. Vintage movie and comic book posters covered the walls. Beat up couches arranged in a U shape. An RCA television was half buried by a Betamax VCR, a Pioneer laser, and on and on. And video game consoles, classic, blah, blah, blah.
Role-playing game supplements. I don't know. It's like Dwight David Thrash, Titus Uno, certified public accountant, forensic. It's that sort of drilling down. I said it was the way that, if you were like a Spanish learning app would sort of just give you the same repetitive thing, like David is Harry's brother. Harry is, that sort of see Dick run type of thing, like learning a language.
I was just, I was doing my French lesson this morning and they read it normal. And then he says, now plus lentement. And then he just slows down and you hear the same thing. It's like, that's exactly what it is.
But it's reminding you of stuff that if you're, it's sort of appreciating because we read this book, a week apart at times. But if you're a normal person who's probably reading this over the course of a day or two, because it's so easy, it must be maddening.
Well, I will also point out another thing that this, I think, fits under the umbrella of Clinian. But this also begins to accelerate as this book goes on. This moment. She didn't notice my arrival because, pay attention, my avatar was invisible. Okay, that's the reason. Her eyes were also closed, but that just meant she was engaged and currently had her attention focused elsewhere, like on a phone call or private chat room. So that could also be the reason that she doesn't see you. It's like you just stop at reason one. It doesn't, I don't know what he's doing there.
Right, yeah.
But he does that a lot where he'll say, this is blah, blah, blah. Oh, also this. And let me just add this in case you didn't get the point. She can't see you. She can't see you. Get on with it.
Right. And we know you're a super user who has a cloak of invisibility because that's what you spent the first 3 chapters to the book telling us.
Oh, he tells us that many, many more times.
Here's a good one. Back when we were in high school, H had modeled her private Oasis chat room after Ogden Morrow's basement, and the two of us spent countless hours there over the years. What do you think they might have been doing down in the basement? I mean, if you were just picking this up for the first time.
I think they were probably studying Cicero, reading it in the original, and just talking about it.
Right, like it was a salon down there where they would, just debate the big issues of the time.
Yeah. They're young, so think Dead Poets Society, a little immature, but yes, imitating their heroes.
Yeah, or trying to, just they've learned what jazz is for the first time, and so they're trying to sort of one up each other by, they have Miles Davis bootlegs or something, and they're trying to say like, listen to the notes he's playing here. And they were talking, gaming, doing our homework, listening to old music, and watching old movies, of course.
He speculates what she might be doing, though. He says, if Lohengrin really had found one of the shards, she might be in that private chat room discussing it with her friends. Or, if she was bullshitting me, she might be in there discussing that instead. I'll just keep going. If she had just tripped and hurt her elbow really bad, she might be discussing that. If she had had a really good breakfast and was recommending someone else make the toasted granola she makes, she might be discussing, like, what is the point of speculating?
Yes, it's Schrodinger's everything.
Yes.
She could literally be doing anything in the room right now, so we have to assume they are all happening.
Yes.
God. Well, you might be interested to know that the room that her and her buddies, the Low Five, are gathering in, he recognizes, he makes the connection. When I recognize the old techno song playing on the sound system, Cowgirl by Underworld, I made the connection and smiled. This was a recreation of the underground cyberpunk nightclub featured in the 1995 film Hackers. And I just was like, is it even worth pointing out anymore that, there's no rhyme or reason to this stuff? They're just obsessed with old stuff that he likes for no reason. It's not, I guess.
I mean, everyone is, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Because anytime he does anything, the entire world goes bananas. So the entire world is focused on everything that he's focused on.
Even though they hate him, like he's widely regarded as it's like, what if Mark Zuckerberg, people actually cared about it the way that they should, that he does all this bad stuff. Like, that's what people think about Wade.
But sometimes, he'll do the over-explaining thing, but other times he kind of loses focus here.
Okay.
So here's another description. Her avatar's inspiration made me grin again. The character of the same name in the movie version of Grease, a young Stockard Channing wearing a black motorcycle jacket and a pair of oversized sunglasses. But this Rizzo had a touch of Columbia from Rocky Horror with fishnet stockings and a glittery gold top hat. Just focus. Just stay with the...
And that makes him grin.
Yeah.
Like he's grown up his whole life in here and he owns the system, but he's still amused by avatars that resemble things from movies. I mean, at least when the girl in the Mister saw the Henry Hoover vacuum cleaner and grinned every time, she had just escaped, the imprisonment and sex slavery. So, find your ray of sunshine where you can. This guy is just dumb as a rock.
But I'm just surprised that he likes the kind of the mixing up, the stirring them all together. Seems like not really in his... Right. Usually the people who like that stuff, no, you got it wrong. Glittery gold top hats from Rocky Horror don't belong on top of Stockard Channing's young Grease character.
Right. Or like, you would object to a run from Spectacular Spider-Man being mixed up with a detail from an Amazing Spider-Man run, or some garbage that.
I certainly would.
Yes, exactly. This contained the segment that I believe you read to me in a reel or fanfic, where they're planning what they would do once they got the $1 billion. And
yes,
it was worse in real time. The one sentence I wanted to re-hit was, "We'll each have our own room, and in the basement we'll all have our private." I mean, I should have done the bit again where we speculate what they might have, but the private classic video game arcade where we can all hang out. And so once you even learn more about her existence here, she's impoverished, she's malnourished, living in a slum. It makes it even more just baffling that is the ideal she aspires to.
It's unbelievable, and the revelation of her being actually malnourished and the fact that is not addressed immediately is amazing.
Oh,
just
true.
amazing.
Yeah. Yes.
But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Speaking of his repeating stuff, I'll just say it again. The robes of Anorak gave me access to a secret submenu on every ONI user's account where I could monitor the video feeds coming. I don't have to read any further.
Right, sure.
You're already enraged. Would you stop doing this?
I went looking for, there was something that I thought had been repeated earlier, so I went searching for Anorak in the thing, and man, just before Anorak actually appears, Anorak gets mentioned a whole lot in this book.
And the robes thereof, I'm
yes,
assuming.
Yes.
Oh, my God. But he goes into a little bit of detail here about how I don't really want to be a jerk. I don't want to spy on her. And then he just dives immediately into her private file.
Oh, it's amazing.
And just rifles through everything. Is an absolute a-hole, just a monster.
I justified violating her right to privacy as an Oasis user the way I always did. So what would your guess be there?
There's a greater good. The ends justify the means.
By telling myself it was necessary. So, well, go ahead then, sir.
By telling myself.
I want to do it. Therefore, and when he hears her vision, he gets this uber Kleinian phrase. I was smiling and tearing up too, I realized. Yep, that's I thought you might have just actually fallen to the floor.
I did. Yeah, it's amazing. But then, so he spies on her, learns that she's malnourished.
Yeah, she's in a vertical, sprawling slum near the apocalyptic epicenter of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Hand wave that away, whatever has happened there as the apocalyptic epicenter.
He gets... And, he sort of recognizes, I see myself in her, blah, 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 living in the kind of these stacks and everything. And so if you run across someone who you have a lot of compassion for and they are actually malnourished, what's the first thing you would say to that person?
Get them clean water, doctor, what can I feed you?
We have to introduce food slowly because you're malnourished. Mm-hmm. To feed you too quickly is dangerous. Your
nutrient-rich bone broth or something.
I have the very best doctors in the world, of course.
Of course, they live in my house.
I know where you live, so if it's all right with you, can I send someone over and we will... No. Hey, help me find the shard. How many hours do you got left? You're lying on a bed,
right?
Withering away.
Stomach is eating itself.
Amazing.
I liked this though. The way he described that, he says when he pulled up her headset feed, Skyler, I was not prepared for what I saw. The darkened interior of an ancient Airstream trailer lit up bright green by the night vision filters. I could see a helper bot silently washing dishes. In the foreground of several of her headset camera feeds, I could see her thin, frail-looking body was stretched out on a worn mattress in the back of the trailer. Like a lot of people who lived in the stacks, she appeared to be suffering from borderline malnutrition. He was not prepared for that because she resembled the living situation of most of the people who live in the environment that he himself grew up in. What on earth were you expecting, you utter dumbass?
And he has given all these people, he's given them the headsets, right?
Yes, that he made a big show of that.
Which cost, how much are they? I mean, what? This is a extremely high-tech item, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, current VR helmet is $300, $400 with our current technology.
I mean, I know that goods and workers are readily available, so the supply chain, I guess, is still up and running, but... the globe itself, we don't know globally, again, how that's working.
No.
Because we're on the edge of collapse. But he's giving them headsets? It's not just supposed to be circuses. Bread as well, sir. Can I have some bread?
Yeah, I mean, every time you donate to a food bank, I'm always sort of surprised when it's like, this amount of money will put this many meals on a table. And it's always way more meals than you'd expect, I guess. For the amount of money. So the headset, sir, that could have fed 2,000 people probably, like one of them, for the cost of one of those guys.
But hey, as her, I assume she's so malnourished, your pulse begins to slow. I assume with malnourishment also comes dehydration. But she has a pleasant dreamlike expression on her face, so everything is good. Thank you, ONI.
And I think it ends with probably the most stunning part of the book so far. I would say the only thing that's really an outlier where he discusses the character's sexuality.
I just triple circled it and fell out of my chair, take, threw a book, ran around the block, hit myself with a hammer.
So I mean, as we were reading this, and I was sort of like, there was a lot of shit happened this year, and which rendered the world sort of unrecognizable, and made people question whether we needed a guy like Ernest Cline to write a book talking about the stuff he remembered, type of thing. And I was like, is he gonna try to wedge some of this into here? Like, what if he addresses George Floyd, stuff like that? And he didn't try to do that, but this is like the closest thing we're gonna get, I think.
Yeah. Do you want to?
I'll just read some of the things.
Yeah, just read.
I don't want to touch because it's just. But he says, discovering this. I guess he realizes she was. I think I didn't take the name. Assigned male at birth. She now is a trans female, I guess. He says, yes. Discovering this minor detail didn't send me spiraling into a sexual identity crisis the way it probably would have back when I was younger. And which I think in the first book, he was grilling Artemis on her thing, being like, are you a woman? That is, were you born with female genitalia? Which I think he got a lot of criticism for. So this is sort of pretty much the author trying to very clearly hand wave that away. He says, I'd come away with the same realization most ONI users came away with. Passion was passion and love was love, regardless of who the participants involved were or what sort of body they were assigned at birth. And that's once again, him sort of atoning, I think, for the previous book. But it comes across as like, as when, considering we were just remembering Legend of Billie Jean and Grease 2 pages ago, it reminds me of the sort of thing where, like, in Community, they'd be building a blanket for it and have these wacky adventures, and then you would have some sort of, like, sit-down moment at the end where it was like, but guys, what we really learned today was, it's like, right. These are cartoon characters. These are not people who learned lessons here. Give me a break.
No, it's obviously maybe an editor or someone, or just the public pressure, whatever, the letters he gets, the emails. He probably just finished the book, did this exact same thing, and went, I probably got to wedge some garbage in there. And this is, I mean, it could not be more ham-fisted. What you read obviously gives a flavor, but it goes on, and it is the most ham-fisted thing in the world, like insulting, just as stupid. I mean, you're not expecting anything else.
Sure.
I've always thought that about when people complain about, they're not being represented well on TV sitcoms or something. Like, who is? What are you talking about? Human beings aren't represented well. I mean, I get it, but come on.
Right.
You're not looking for a realistic portrayal. But you're not looking for, I don't think anyone's asking for Ernest Cline to address these things, yet he's going to. So.
Right. And I don't want to be the clown who tells, a basketball player to, leave your views out of this, because people can do whatever they want to, and they're just as valid. But maybe Ernest Cline's are not as just as valid as the rest of ours. Maybe we don't need to know what he has to say. He says, because he says this tended, he talks about her being O-gender, which means you only have sex through your ONI headset, which I guess that's his big contribution to the sci-fi idea canon. But it said, this tended to alter their perception of gender identity and fluidity in profound ways. It had certainly altered mine. So once again, this is a guy who was waking up to Marty McFly's theme song from Back to the Future and naming his robot butler Belvedere. We are being told, not shown, that it has altered his perception of things in profound ways.
Yeah, we are disallowing the word profound to be used in any capacity in your books. But anyway, enough said about that. I think that's the end of the chapter, right?
It is, and it's the end of that. We're going back to smashing his Thundercats and Snorks figures together in his playroom.
So chapter 6?
Yes, this is. I guess he just turned his thing off, and he's about to reveal himself to Lohengrin.
This was an actual, I don't think that any liquid came out of my face, but a spit take moment. I know, she said, giving me a sheepish smile. I've read every single one of the books written about you over the past few years, including your autobiography, which I've read at least 24 times. So she's the exact same person as he is.
Right. And he wrote an autobiography. This is, talking about lead buried.
No kidding.
Like, we at least, like J.K. Rowling fills in, she actually published The Adventures of Beetle the Bard. We need to read what that would have been, because talking about getting some profound insights.
Do you think he just messed up and thought that Ready Player One was his autobiography?
Maybe that's the thing. I guess that was a first-person story. Maybe he says in the beginning of that, "This is what happened. I'm now telling it to you," or something like that.
Yeah, that's not how autobiographies work, but let it pass.
Sure. But yeah, that is, so yeah, we've got, he knows how to write one kind of character. And so now we have this malnourished trans youth who is, but exactly the same as our first character, who was exactly the same as the author.
Yeah, it's a natural temptation of, I think I've brought it up before, of like long-running TV series where the characters start out very distinctly, and towards the end, as they're about to, if they know they have the end of the show, they close it up where all the characters are pretty much the same, because no one wants to leave going like without Dwight, on
right.
The Office being good friends with Jim, and Dwight's not a jerk. Like everybody just becomes kind of the same bland character right at the end.
Right.
Like, we're all good and we're all fun and we're gonna go live in history as good friends. Goodbye.
Right. Or they all go to Wacky Town, where they're all, they're, like I said, community, where no one is recognizable as an actual
right.
person who could exist. The Office, it reminded me of, Ricky Gervais did it so well, where he would, he'd be saying something and then he would like turn to the camera and be like, racial, like that, yes. Which is exactly what the last chapter was like, looking at the camera, being like,
Yeah, exactly.
And I was okay with that. Like,
yep. But we get our first end user license agreement in the middle of the book.
Oh, hell yeah.
That was awesome. The contract states, among other things, that if the information you present to me proves to be valid. I signed it. I was just out of I just checked it.
I scrolled to the end and hit accept. It's instinct. Yeah. Well, yeah, because she wants him to. He's going to give her $1 billion after all this if he gives her the right information. And the information, I guess, is that there's 2 different calendars. It says there was a 1986 calendar on the wall. It featured a painting of a bikini-clad female warrior astride a black steed, brandishing a magic ring at an incoming flight of dragons. Out of curiosity, I looked up the name of this painting once. It was called Magic Ring. Oh,
yeah, that was in Real or Fanfic.
Oh, okay.
For you, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
Great, yes.
Yeah.
I just liked the, out of curiosity, I wanted more information about this bikini-clad goddess poster, so I...
Out of curiosity.
Was there a version where she wasn't wearing the bikini? I was just curious.
Well, again, though, he had to stop reading for the 45th time Kira's, biography of when she went to get pizza back in 1987 or something.
Right. Yes. But then so he replaces the calendar with one from 1989, which I guess is when she lived in the house, and some magic happens, which is very clearly meant to remind you of a scene in probably like a Harry Potter movie or something like that. When the strobing stopped, our surroundings had changed. The couches in Ogg's basement had rearranged themselves, and 2 more bookshelves had appeared against the far wall, both filled with more RPG gaming supplements. There were also several new posters on the wall, but the most striking distance was the time of day. Outside the basement windows, night had fallen. The streetlights were on. There was a full moon out. Whoa, I heard myself whisper. I'm just like, is any of this actually striking? Like, you're on a video game system 12 hours of the day. You're on planets where there's multiple John Candies running around. Like, is your view of reality anything that resembles what ours would be since we live in the real world? I can't imagine you would actually think that was interesting or different. Like, of course.
Well, this is a guy who still thinks it's notable to mention that you can move from one place to the other in a video game right. Without like driving there in a car and stopping for supplies and water and beef jerky.
Right. It was allowed to by his robes of anorak, which granted him super user status.
What are those now?
The robes of Anorak. One more time for the people in the back.
I was very pleased to learn, and I forget what year this is. Do we have that at the tip of our
2040 X? Yeah, something like that.
If this kid was lying about finding one of the shards, then she deserved an Academy Award for her performance. So it's good to know that it's still going on. But those movies, apparently, no one really pays attention to them. They're all focused.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's been Best Picture winners that we haven't even heard about yet, but they just they didn't make their mark the way that Legend of Billie Jean did, I guess.
It would be great if he did that Star Trek thing of just mentioning, two of his favorites, and then some movie from 2036 that he really focused on,
that swept the Oscars.
Yeah,
like, why not, man? You have fun. Like, then you get to do a whole shitty ARG campaign where you're in that movie or something like that. Like, just it's lazy at this point in time.
Yeah, and mentioning who's the kid actor that everyone, Jonathan Taylor Thomas or somebody like that, his 13th Academy Award.
Right, yeah. Or he did a Mickey Rourke wrestler type of role.
Right.
The kid from Jerry Maguire came out of retirement and did it. Yeah, but it's either that or they just, he's hung up on what the Oscars were before that. I feel like the Oscars, at some point in time, you stop taking them seriously. Like when I was 18, I was like, I got to watch every Best Picture winner. This is important. And then you're like, oh, if they're giving out the Best Picture to the artist, this is not something that matters or that I should care about.
Yeah.
So maybe he just hasn't reached that stage yet. He clearly hasn't. He's not an emotionally mature person.
No, he's a human monster who spies on people and hoards all the money in the world.
But so this is the sort of thing that that makes this ineffectual as a storytelling device as far as I'm concerned. The treasure hunt just involves clues that you've never heard of before and were not mentioned, and so they reveal the clue and what it points to at the same moment.
Yes.
It says Kira made a mixtape for Og and James with the Smith songs on it, and that's the clue. I guess I just wrote that. It refers to the song as one of Kira's all-time favorites. So she has different levels of favorites here. All-time favorites, I think, is higher. So if something is just her favorite, which we covered last episode, that just may as well mean it's garbage.
Yes.
But the Smith song was called The Light That Never Goes Out or something like that.
Yeah, one of the more famous songs.
Okay.
So that's in Lucosia's mix. Mm-hmm. He mentions it again, and then he says the song is The Light That Never Goes Out by the Smiths. Then he mentions Lucosia's mix in the Middletown Simulation. Then 2 paragraphs down, side A, Lucosia's mix was written on it in cursive. And then I thought for a moment, then took the copy of Lucosia's mix out of my inventory and examined the track list. There it was, the 7th song on side A. There is a Light That Never Goes Out by the Smiths, one of Kira's all-time favorites.
Unbelievable. That's
when I just wrote, what is going on here? What is happening?
Right. If it was meant for 10-year-olds, you'd understand. It's not. It's meant for 45-year-old guys.
But no one can read past that, right? You're done. You're out.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
But he did that in Armada, right? He had the Raid the Arcade mix, which was referenced however many dozen times, and I think he put the track listing for it on the book flap or something.
Making an assumption that he has had girlfriends. Can you imagine the mixtapes that he gives out?
Oh, liner notes, hand-drawn cassette inserts. Oh, my God.
So what'd you think? Did you listen to it? I haven't yet. I haven't.
Yeah, she's into the coffee shop manager's office immediately being like, you got to do something about this. This is the 3rd mix that the new barista's given me this week. This is not good. Like, I also heard he does poetry. He's going to ask me to come to one of those soon. I can feel it.
Oh, he called me a shaved ape. I don't know what's going on.
But so when you just learn about this mixtape and you learn about one song on it, you don't even, it's not like he has listened to this mix and the songs on it, so one of them might be a clue. It's like if you just, the end of The Sixth Sense, where they sort of they show all these things that happened, it'd be like, oh yeah, there was that time that you sat on the couch with talking to the mom, but she wasn't actually looking at you. If you go back and look at that, it's if they showed you that at the end of the movie when they revealed the surprise, instead of having it be something you could go back and note, oh yeah, that was the way that worked. Usual Suspects. Oh, that was the character that he was inventing this whole time. It's just so stupid and sloppy and pointless.
Yes, and again, could not an editor have shown him that, yeah, that's not the way you set up a thing to make people want to read on? It's like the clue comes first, and then the solving and maybe getting closer to the clue.
Exactly.
If Sherlock Holmes was, the speckled band, the famous one where the mystery turns out to be that it's a snake that kills him, and the guy thought he had a headband on or something because it was biting him on the head or something, and it was the speckled band, which, as you know, is a snake that someone sent up the bell rope and came down into the room, and that's how he died. Aha, well, let's go, Watson. Let's
yes, well done.
Go find this speckled
We've
band.
got time to catch a beer, and that was fast.
Yeah.
Speaking of fast, one of our all-time favorite things happened yet again. I think this was maybe in the first episode or two of the podcast, we did a sketch of this, but Kira's house is just a few blocks from here, she shouted over her shoulder. Follow me. When we reached the Barnett's house a few minutes later, Lohengrin halted at the end of the darkened sideway leading up to it. So she excitedly tells him to follow, and then a few minutes pass of what we presume to be silence as they walk to a new house.
I wonder if I should dive to the dark web real quick and get out a recreation of those several minutes.
It was them walking down the office hallway, right? Like in the first pic.
So they deep dive into Kira's life and some of her artwork and all this. She did drawing, she did ASCII art and all of that. And then they find out Og was fond of saying that his wife had always had a knack for bringing pixels to life. Was he fond of saying that?
Yeah. Was he saying it a lot? If he was so fond of it?
If he was fond of it, he had to be.
Yes. Imagine one of the worst compliments you could repeatedly say about your wife. And because we learn that, oh, she's a great artist. Oh, what does she do? Oh, the most basic shit you could imagine that a geek might do. Dragons, unicorns, elves, hobbits, and castles. Just no innovation or anything of her own. We revealed that at one point in time, it's like a unicorn in front of a full moon with clouds or something. It's like, oh, sure. A trapper keeper. Got it.
Yes. And him being fond of saying it is like, to reference it again, Michael Scott on The Office is fond of saying that's what she said. Like, no one is happy that he's fond of saying.
Right. Yes.
His wife is not happy. People around him are not happy. She's an art designer, right? She's a graphic artist? Yes. She brings the pixels to life.
She's always had a knack for it.
You seem way more fond of saying that than I am of hearing it.
Right. Og, anything else about her? Like, did she, she looked very beautiful at the charity gala you went to. Like, could you compliment that at all? Like, no, I mean, sure, that's, but I mean, it pales in comparison to the fact that she always had a knack for bringing pixels to life.
I'm not fond of telling her she looks pretty or offering her affection. This strikes me as unbelievable. None of the boys in the guild, this is the guild being when she was young, the group who started the whole thing.
Oh, they started gregarious simulations, which later evolved into...
Hit the macro and put that on the page again. None of the boys in the guild had ever seen Kira's room, including Og and Halliday. But I would have been willing to bet they'd both spent plenty of time imagining what it looked like. You would bet money
right.
that young boys were imagining what her room looked like?
Right, yes.
Is that a thing on any universe ever?
Yeah, it's maybe like a specific drawer in the room. Maybe they'd be interested in the contents of, but that's insane.
Well, that's what I can't... Is that what he's saying? Or is he saying that, wow, I wonder what kind of dragon ASCII art she has on her walls? I'm actually unclear on what that means. Her room.
No, I think he's ascribing a far more like grandly romantic interest to these 12-year-old nerds than any 12-year-old nerd has ever had in their life. What might her room look like? Like, you know,
oh my God.
Does she have a George Michael poster on the wall like DJ Tanner from Full House?
Well, he'd be willing to bet. Well, isn't that something that he could solve? He could bet that, probably. He could probably find someone to go, really? You want to bet on that? Okay.
Yes.
$2 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
Now look at their autobiographies and go back and look at their simulations. See, they did not imagine what her room looked like. Give me my $2 billion.
Right. And the last thing that I had was one more callback to the Mr. A small color television sat on Kira's desk with a Dragon 64 home computer connected to it. Seeing this made me smile.
Wow.
I mean, he has fun. You got to give that to him. It's everything's terrible. The world's falling apart. The person next to him is severely malnourished and impoverished, but he likes seeing stupid old computers. That makes him smile.
Well, the last thing that I have is that they listen to the Smiths song in real time in
right.
prose, because they start playing. And it's take me out tonight, 'cause I glanced around the room, nothing happened. I glanced over at Lohengrin. She held up a hand and mouthed the word "wait." So we waited until about 3 minutes into the song. And then all of that happens after that. But right. Unbelievable. Just make it happen. What was the point of waiting?
Yeah, didn't they also have to like fast forward to that specific song on the tape, which was right after Jesse's Girl?
Oh, I guess, yeah. And they had one of those, I'm assuming the boombox didn't have the auto, find the beginning of a song thing.
That was like magic when those came along.
Oh, yeah, that was great.
So a lot of characters doing things, standing next to each other in real time for many minutes in silence. He plays the hits. You got to give it to him. And yeah, the shard appears when I guess it gets to that song, to the line about the candle in the window.
Should we reward ourselves with fanfic now?
Yeah, I think so. Let's do it. It's going to be.
Right. I have my Dixon Ticonderoga.
Wow.
In my hot little hand, so I'm ready to go.
I don't know. Do you think that when they were envisioning her bedroom, those guys had their hot little hands?
All right, now I knew that would get something.
Let's see. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to read 5 excerpts. They are either going to be from later in Ready Player 2, or they're going to be fanfic that our listeners have sent in. And Mike's going to try to guess which are which. And they could either all be real, they could all be fanfic, or they could be a combination of the two. These prove difficult because, as we've said, he's beyond parody. So it's I think it was a coin flip last time. Our 10 combined ones were 50-50.
Our combined effort was a coin flip. Yep.
It's delightful that continues to be the case. But let's see if this is any different. Our listeners have adapted a bit. We got a ton, so I was able to pick the best, the trickiest. And we got a ton of people submitting stuff from later in the book, which was appreciated because, man, does it get dumb.
Now, I will point out, this is a procedural issue that for people who are Patreon, and we'll also hear the bonus thing, is that if you looked ahead, you would also be seeing things that may be real ahead in the book when you go to do your thing, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's a gray area that I come down firmly against. I do not want you taking stuff that happens in the book and sort of tweaking it to make it because that's not fair. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, yeah.
You gotta invent stuff, and like I think both of us had an unfortunate spoiler when we read a review that talked about involvement of a character that I would have been surprised by to turn up, but I think that's revealed at the end of this segment as well. You see Prince's symbol
that
on the page.
Up. Yep.
So, so that sort of disqualified some of the real ones' potential. But anyway, ready to begin?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. Number 1. So if Halliday's favorite captain was Picard, who was Kira's, I asked. Gotta be Janeway, H interjected. First female captain on a Star Trek show. No way, Artemis said. Not after what she did to Tuvix. Tuvix, Shoto asked. Who is that? Artemis rolled her eyes. In the Star Trek Voyager episode Tuvix, a transporter accident combines Tuvok, the Vulcan chief of security, and Neelix, the Talaxian ship's cook, into an entirely new person, Tuvix. He is a sentient being and begs to be left alive, but Janeway reverses the transporter accident and murders him. There's no way Kira would support Janeway after that. Fine, if her favorite captain wasn't Janeway, who was it? We don't have much time left, I reminded her. Artemis closed her eyes and sat silent for a moment. Then she spoke up. Captain Christopher Pike. That doesn't help, H said impatiently. Which one? Bruce Greenwood from the Kelvinverse movies? Anson Mount from Star Trek Discovery? No, Artemis said. Jeffrey Hunter, the original.
Oh, my God. Well, look, my vote on this is just aspirational, that there's no way he could be that stupid. Of course he can, but I'm just hoping that he's not. So I'm going to say that's fanfic.
Okay. Number 2. He took the shoes from her and put them on. Then he put the bolo tie around his neck. As soon as he did, his wardrobe and hairstyle changed. He no longer looked like Robert Downey Jr. as Ian in Weird Science. Now he looked like Robert Downey Jr. in Back to School, in the role of Derek Lutz. But he was dressed...
I gotta call audible.
Oh, shit.
Yep, it happened. That is a one that was chosen. I know that to be real.
Wow.
Unfortunately.
How?
I can't. Yeah, but I know it to be real because of my gathering fanfic for you. That was the problem.
Damn it.
Yeah.
Damn it. Well, I want to finish reading at least one part of it.
Yeah, go ahead.
When the transformation completed, it triggered another music cue. At first, I thought I was hearing the song I Want a New Drug by Huey Lewis and the News. But as soon as the lyrics kicked in, I realized it was actually Weird Al Yankovic's parody, I Want a New Duck.
That must have been submitted multiple times.
Oh, my God. It would have tricked you, too. It's so stupid. Robert Ducky Jr.
I was excited when I saw it, too. I read it through as fanfic, and then the person put it at the end.
That it was real?
Real. So, so it's like, damn it.
All right. Number 3. There we were, traveling from Shermer to Chicago to participate in the biggest synchronized flick sync in history. A recreation of the scene from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where Ferris and his friends take over Chicago's Von Steuben Day to the delight of thousands in the street and even more watching from home. This was going to need to be perfect to get the shard, but no matter what, it was going to be historic. The pea green 1983 Chrysler LeBaron from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles we had to use to get there drove just as well, and poorly, as I imagined. I still felt bad stealing it from Neil Page and Del Griffith, but if anyone understood the importance of being in a rush, it would be them. I cranked up Mess Around by Ray Charles to put us in the mood. Not that we had a choice. It was the only song on the radio. Wade, there's something I need to tell you, Shoto blurted out. What's wrong, Sho? I asked, chomping down on goldfish crackers. Cheese, of course. I don't know the lyrics to Twist and Shout.
Oh, that's it?
Yes, that's where the passage ends.
That is fanfic.
Okay.
I like it.
We have number 4. It was the school's computer room, and it was currently filled with student NPCs typing out their term papers on rows of ancient desktop computers. A sign posted above the chalkboard said, "Hackers will be expelled." And that was one of the reasons I did a double take a few seconds later, when I spotted the greatest fictional hacker of the 80s, Bryce Lynch, sitting at one of the computers. Then I noticed that Bryce looked older than I remembered, and he wasn't wearing his glasses. That finally made me realize I was looking at Buck Ripley, a character in The Great Outdoors portrayed by Chris Young, the same actor who had played Bryce Lynch on Max Headroom a few years earlier. Even so, before I turned to leave, I silently saluted him, recalling the dark time during Halliday's contest when I'd used the name Bryce Lynch as my fake identity to avoid detection by IOI and the Sixers.
Oh, my God. I can't. Who the hell is any of those people? Oh, it's a clever one. I'm going to say fanfic.
Okay. And number 5. I removed 2 magic swords that I'd acquired on Arda 3 from my inventory. One was the Ithanal broadsword named Glamdring, wielded by Gandalf during the War of the Ring, and I equipped it to the scabbard on my avatar's back. The other was a 2-handed sword, and I took hold of it by its blade and held it out to H, hilt first. Here, I said, you're going to need this. Anduril, the Flame of the West, reforged from the shades of Narsil by... H waved the sword away. No thanks, Z, H said. I've already got plenty of swords of my own. I continued to hold the sword out to her. Take it, I said. Only magical weapons forged by the elves of Middle-earth can affect the servants of Morgoth, okay? I do know 1 or 2 things about this place. H relented and took the sword, She then equipped it in its scabbard at her side. Happy now, she asked. I'll be happy once we get the last 2 shards, I said. We're almost to the end. You ready, H? She flashed her Cheshire grin at me. Then, doing her best Jack Burton impression, she said, Z, I was born ready.
Well, the details check out. The shards of, what is it? Nardil? Like
sure. Ithanal broadsword, Glamdring.
Glamdring, yeah.
Reforged from the shards of Narsil.
Narsil, all right. I think that is, I don't think we've had Cheshire grins, so I'm going to say fanfic, and I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm not playing the odds here, so I'm just, it's my instinct.
All right. Well, let's see what happened. First one, that was the debate about the favorite captain, Picard, Janeway. You said fanfic. That was fanfic written by Steve.
Okay.
I did appreciate mention of Anson Mount, who way back Rift Tracks viewers will remember as Britney Spears' stepbrother in Crossroads.
That's correct. Yeah, he sort of looks like Jim Caviezel, kind of just that trim, handsome, dark-haired guy. Yeah.
More than anything, stunning that multiple people from that movie went on to have like big Hollywood careers.
Big careers. It's like Diner, right? It's just a bunch of guys who went on to acclaim.
Right. And like, bigger, what's her name? New Uhuru Avatar. She's bigger than Britney Spears now.
Well, look, Vanilla Ice movie, the Academy Award-winning cinematographer that Spielberg's got.
Sometimes you just take a job. Number 2, so you're 1 for 1. Number 2, that was the Void one. Damn it, Weird Al Yankovic's "I Want a New Duck." Number 3, you said number 3 was Ferris Bueller Flick Sync. You said fanfic. That was fanfic written by Hayden. Nice. So I'll say 2 for 2 so far.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3, Bryce Lynch, the greatest hacker of all time. You said fanfic. That is real. From later in the book, submitted by Elizabeth, found that one.
Who are all the? What is he talking about?
I have Buck Ripley,
and then he
Bryce
looks older,
Lynch.
and then who's the greatest hacker in the world? That's from Hackers, I assume.
Bryce Lynch, I think, is from Max Headroom. He says, and I remember that name. He portrayed him. That was his alias in the first book for some reason.
Oh, but is he talking about the actor or the? Who
it was portrayed by Chris Young in Great Outdoors, who also played Bryce Lynch on Max Headroom. It's like we've said before, it's like a 5-year-old explaining to you the plot of Pokemon or something.
Right.
Nobody cares and they're really into it.
Yes.
Here is number 5, which was the forged ring of Mithril or whatever. You said fanfic. That is also real.
Oh, come on.
Submitted by Braden. Cheshire Grins, come back, baby.
Cheshire Grins.
Yeah, that was like the biggest signifier that people were writing fanfic if they wedged that in there. So I'm glad it comes back.
Oh my God! So that was a pretty long thing to just discuss the history of the swords of the people. Come on, man.
Yeah, as they're 2 shards away or whatever.
Yeah, that seems like 101. That's just get that out of the way right away and be done with it.
And the weird detail of H waving it away and then accepting it 2 lines later. Like, what on earth are you doing?
Oh, God. Well, 50%.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
The line holds. It's the market correcting itself.
It's stunning.
All right. Well, thanks to everyone who sent those in. Everyone who sent real ones, that's good too. It's nice to see the stupid stuff later, even if it sort of ruins the discovery of finding it ourselves. So keep them coming, everybody.
Chapter 7. Sorry, Chapter 7.
Yep. So he says he discovered the shard. And this was a good example, I thought, of how his worldview has been expanded profoundly. He says, after 3 years of trying, I hadn't been able to do it on my own. No, I'd had to be led here, like a noob following a walkthrough.
He really has changed. That's a beautiful sentiment.
Yes.
That's true humility.
Mm-hmm.
You have learned a lesson, my friend. You have visited the Wizard of Oz, and he has given you a true heart.
Yes. You've escaped from Plato's cave.
Yes. This is what Lowe says. It's the malnourished Lowe lying on I assume a dirty mattress in the back of a trailer. Now the whole world knows you have the first shard. The news feeds must be blowing up. Also, can I get some vitamin B12? My bones are shrinking. And...
I didn't think that scurvy or rickets were possible to get anymore.
Tuberculosis still killing thousands a year?
But yeah, news feeds are back. That was the first thing he was examining, right? That the some store was making news feed headlines.
Did news feeds make it onto the Oasis? I never heard a paragraph about that.
I like that she doesn't even reference mead feeds anymore. That was just he introduced that. It was like, that's too stupid to even keep bringing up.
Right.
But he does he true to his word and true to the EULA he signed. He gives her the $1 billion. I opened the financial transactions menu, selected her avatar on my display, and tapped a series of icons, and that was it. $1 billion were transferred from my Oasis account to hers. And global markets plummeted. The economies of developing countries were rocked by this sudden upending of stock transfer and wealth. It really was like, devastated everybody.
When George Soros almost ruined the economy of the UK by his trading and everything. Yeah, it's everything went crazy in the markets.
You can't just do that.
But help me out here. So she's 19 or 20, he said. I don't think he gave the real age, maybe, but anyway, okay. She's either 19 or 20. He's 23, right?
Yeah, we delved into that last time. I think that was we got around that. Yeah, he's roughly not that much older.
And she says to him several times, "I can't tell you what this means to me, sir," she said. Is this like a Peppermint Patty situation? What, sir?
Yeah.
Did you do that when you were roughly the same age in your early 20s?
To the seniors who got to serve beer at the college parties, as opposed to, when I was trying to get in as a freshman with X's on my hands. Yeah.
It struck me as very odd.
That would be a great thing to have manifest for the rest of the book if he is following her around like Marcy. Yeah. Or she is following him around.
Yeah. What are we doing next, sir?
But then she says she drops just a real good aphorism, just one that rolls off the tongue. She says, I do respect you and everything you've accomplished. You just lost your way a little bit, which makes perfect sense. You suddenly became rich and famous. You know what Bill Murray said about that? When you become famous, you've got like a year or two where you can act like a real asshole. You can't help yourself. It happens to everybody. You've got like 2 years to pull it together, or it's permanent. So she just rattled that one off like you would, I am Connor McLeod of the Clan McLeod or something like that.
Right. So part of memorizing things and all the books and where posters are and looking up Gunterpedia, you're also memorizing all the quotes of Bill Murray interviews?
Yeah, you're memorizing Bill Murray quotes from a early aughts oral history of SNL where he was talking about Chevy Chase.
That's... I mean, they're widely read. I wouldn't say well read, but very widely, I'd say.
It's just, and then he follows it up with his favorite Bill Murray quote, which is again something about an interview he gave to like The Guardian or something. So, both unexpected favorite Bill Murray quotes from someone who's quoted Bill Murray, I'm sure, dozens of times in his previous book. Well,
here's a thing that is surprising to me, a physical manifestation of our young, what's her name? Lo, which shocking thing that is consistent through all the books we've read. Here it is. She nodded slowly, biting her lower lip. Why is this a thing in bad books?
So who else has done that? Bella?
Bella's she's a pro lip chewer.
Yeah,
the Mister. I think there's been at least one or two more.
Yeah. All right. So is it just the laziest way to display like sort of insecure yet still alluring type of
Yes, demure or something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, it's the expression you make when you're saying, "Really, you think I'm pretty?"
Yes.
Wow, that's good. It's amazing when things like that, long fingers and smiling at things that don't warrant smiles, can continue to pop up.
I'm also grounded by this sentence. I handed her one of my contact cards. which were still designed to look like an old adventure cartridge for the Atari 2600. I feel grounded when things that were certain things remain the same things that they were. It's just disconcerting when things stop being the things they were. So I appreciated him telling us that.
Yeah, well, I guess he just hadn't had a chance in this book to remind us multiple times about that. So he had to call that back from the first book.
Which were still.
He apologizes to her. I've been meaning to update this to something that's, only 64 years old at this point in time. These ancient adventure ones are a little embarrassing. Referencing a 68-year-old video game. Ban.
After this year's Academy Awards, I'll get them updated. I apologize for that.
So I feel like at some point in time I read a Roger Ebert review of a bad movie that was like, this movie is so lazy that once the character gets a new attitude, it is set to a montage of, the Pointer Sisters, I've Got a New Attitude, or whoever sings that song. Or the equivalent of Papa's Got a Brand New Bag when a character starts to be cool or something like that. That becomes his thing for the rest of the chapter.
Mm-hmm. He
just plays songs, lyrics that are on the nose for whatever he's doing. He wakes up in his spider coffin. He's out of the virtual world and he's back to reality. So he sings the song "Back to Life, Back to Reality." He has a recurring dream where Salt and Peppa step out from behind the golden Marshall stacks, both singing into golden microphones, looking like they just stepped out of their music video in 1986, while DJ Spinderella rose up from behind Halliday's egg, scratching a pair of solid gold records on a set of solid gold turntables as they all sing push it real good" regarding the red button.
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as he pushes it and everybody dies, including Mrs. G and his Aunt Alice, men at work show up singing another song called "It Was a Mistake."
It's a mistake, yes.
Yes. So it's I need him to stop doing this where a song perfectly fits the moment you're doing to the nth degree.
If that did happen in a movie more than a couple times, that would be the worst movie ever.
Yes.
But he does it 3 times in as many paragraphs. But he also says this about it: "Whether I was online or offline, dreaming or awake, the image of my face reflected in the surface of the big red button was always lurking at the back of my mind, and those lyrics were playing on an endless loop." So what is his mind like? That he's running the company. He's jogging around his mansion as Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He's watching and reading things constantly. He's doing that email sorting that he does.
Oh, yeah. He's
constantly rearranging his queue. And then
he's been profoundly changed, though, in his worldview as well. So he's
right.
Also thinking about injustice and impoverished and people.
And yet, if you did the Homer Simpson go up to his brain cloud, you would hear, push it real good.
Yes. Yeah, as he's sitting there and there's one of those drinking birds at the button that keeps getting closer and closer. It's not unbelievable because we read it, but for a book to be this and still be the 17th best-selling book in the country on Amazon, as I checked before this, is I don't know what we've become.
Of all the depressing things of 2020, it being number 17 is truly at the top.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so that's it ends with him watching the stacks explode again and sort of letting them take him. That's his reoccurring nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've got for Chapter 7.
Yep. Chapter 8 goes right into a go-to-hell moment.
Yes.
He awakes to Ferris Bueller's pal Cameron Fry's Innova Electronics Communication Center Model 7000 manufactured in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
That telephone. There's not enough go-to-hells left in me for that,
yes.
For that moment.
And he caps that off by just then saying, "When Cameron was in Egypt's land, let my Cameron go," which is a line from the movie.
It certainly is.
It is.
The movie kind of earned it. The book, not so much.
Right. That's the second time that he's woken up to something from the early to mid 80s. So I just look forward to the third time something like that happens, because rule of threes is going to apply. It's cool. Then it got a little annoying the second time it happened, but I think he's going to bring it home when he wakes up to Excalibur. I don't know, something like that.
Oh,
I'm just so weary.
Speaking of, I have a Sonic challenge on the fly. I didn't write this down. Let's do this. This is a duel. We're doing this together.
Okay.
We're going to recreate the interior of his head, because you do Push It Real Good,
okay,
and I'll sing When Cameron Was in Egypt.
Okay.
All right? Because that's what's going on in his head. Okay. Phone ring. He's sleeping. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Bring, 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 bring.
Push it real good.
When Cameron was in Egypt,
push it,
let
push
my
it real
Cameron
good.
go. There you go.
Well, this explains his erratic behavior and eccentricities, I guess. That's maddening.
Good Lord.
And so that's happening as he's adding things to his queue, and the Mr. Belvedere butler is also delivering him eggs, and he's pondering,
he's putting on his jogging suit, and
unrest in Swaziland as well.
Right. So he gets the bad news that Og is missing. Right?
Oh, he does, yes. I'd like to just, that is what happens. I'd like to read it specifically, just because we'll put a pin in it, as they say.
Oh, okay, good.
Last night, Faisal said, Mr. Morrow's home security system, surveillance cameras, and robot sentries were all deactivated at exactly 7 o'clock Pacific time. They all just shut off. When his staff came in the morning, Mr. Morrow was gone. He didn't leave a note, and there were no signs of a break-in. One of his telebots is missing, and so is his private jet. So just...
Okay.
We're
just going to put a pin in that?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Because he does his own investigation later on.
He does. And so just a few of those details might be important to remember. But so what he does is he jacks into the Oasis, and then he goes to Og's house, which is, as we're just learning, is a stunningly beautiful home that looks like a perfect replica of Rivendell.
It is truly unbelievable. From the outside, it looked like a perfect replica of Rivendell, as it appeared in Peter Jackson's film adaptations of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. What is happening?
Yeah, it's like a pedantic encyclopedia.
You realize, though, that he's doing this as just a lousy tick.
Mm-hmm.
He got dressed and ran down to his office and climbed into his conventional Oasis haptic rig.
Oh.
And his pair of haptic gloves. So he's got his rig on. Is this the first time in this book he's put the conventional rig?
It might have been. Yeah, Artemis was in one, but it might be his. So he's
lousy tick.
He's pulling the dust cover off of it, and we get the glory shot of it. Fan service moment there. But yeah, so he is in the rig. He is watching this, and we get this detail about Og's home that looked like a perfect replica of Rivendell. Og had literally moved mountains and rerouted rivers to make the fictional valley of Imladris a reality. So this probably had catastrophic ecological and economic consequences as well.
I wrote, is that a thing? I mean, I know giant dam building is a thing, but actually rerouting them around mountains and things?
Yeah.
Is that...
So if there's just, a community downriver who's like, well, I mean, agriculture now ceases to exist here. There are massive arrangements between, California and Colorado about that water. Like Colorado, you're not even allowed to recapture rainwater, I think. So
Well, yeah, I mean, the simple thing of putting down a road, you don't know how many first of all, the destruction of animal habitat just to make the road, but then the road crossing itself destroys the routes of certain animals and things, and that's just on a utterly minor level.
Right?
So
yes,
this is catastrophic on some level.
A monster to make the stupidest house replica in honor of his dead wife.
So do a little back of the envelope estimate. You can picture Rivendell as depicted in Peter Jackson's film adaptations of The Hobbit and The Lord
I was
going to
say no, but then you said as depicted in Peter Jackson's thing, and then I was like, sure.
Okay, so get your envelope there and your pencil. Several waterfalls were visible in the distance, spilling off the peaks beyond the enormous house and its grounds. What do you think the budget for this thing is?
I mean, I'd say probably more than, the stadium where the Cowboys play football. I'd probably.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to give you, because I'm a builder who's motivated to build this replica of Rivendell as it appeared in Peter Jackson's film. I'm going to give you a 50% discount. It's $2 billion.
Oh, that's nice and round. I like the cut of your jib.
So deal?
Yes, absolutely. Build that place. Right. Dam that river and make that species of fish extinct.
$2 billion.
$2 billion. That seems low to you?
It seems very low, considering that he's giving out $1 billion to malnourished kids on mattresses.
Well, it seems low, but may I point out that that's a higher price tag than Buckingham Palace?
Oh, it's true.
Which is, to me, the most well-known baseline for high-value property.
Yes.
Also, I looked it up. It was built in 1703, so it's like possibly the least way to analogize a property built in 2030 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like what does that mean? Like it was built in 1703 by a bunch of people who were paid in bread. Like
right, and does the county assessor come through Buckingham Palace and he looks around, scribbles a few notes, and says, I don't know.
Right. Fix up that crown molding priceless. And maybe we'll yeah.
I got a little black mold in the basement over there, but yeah.
I'm looking up how much it costs to build the Dallas Cowboys stadium. $1.2 billion.
Okay.
So just a new, like, crappy, modern facility to host 8 NFL games a year is, pretty much on par with that as far as we're concerned. So,
all right. This is a point where this guy has just he's got to dump a bucket of cold water on himself. He's a weird little perv. He comes across as he's investigating with his haptic suit on. It was the room where Samantha had stayed during our week-long retreat here. It was also the room where she and I made love for the first time, parenthetical, and the second, third, and fourth.
Oh. What are you...
Take a shower, man.
Yeah, it's awful. It's because, not to reiterate, but that was mentioned in the first book, pretty much the same phrasing.
Yes. Yeah. And but didn't they tried to get out of the perfect replica of Rivendell to the outside so they wouldn't make as much noise?
Yeah.
But
right.
It still echoed off the mountains around.
He placed the mountains poorly when he moved them. They were supposed to be more noise damping, but
that's right. He had to staple up some of those egg cartons on the mountains.
It created like the whispering chamber in the U.S. Capitol, where if you're standing at one foci, you can hear the other one. Well, here's what I alluded to earlier. He says, I took a quick look around the foyer. Og owned 4 Telebots, all brand new Okagami, blah, 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 with gleaming gunmetal blue chassis and chrome trim. 3 of them were still in their charging rack just inside the front entrance. But the 4th one was missing. It had disappeared the previous evening, along with its owner. I will refresh your memory to what Faisal said. Mr. Morrow was gone. He didn't leave a note, and there were no signs of a break-in. One of his telebots is missing. Like I said, it's pathological. He either thinks we're stupid or he's using a weird method of writing that no one else uses, and it keeps going. Neither the police nor the GSS security team had found any signs of a break-in or struggle. According to the logs, Og had deactivated his own security system and surveillance cameras at 7 p.m. last night. Cut to Faisal. Mr. Morrow's home security system, surveillance cameras, and robot sentries were all deactivated at exactly 7 o'clock Pacific time. What the hell is going on?
I don't know.
It's like...
Does he set it down and then come back a year later and he just doesn't reread what he wrote? Or I don't know. Yeah,
or he's intentionally like a soap opera where they just, they're intentionally glacially advancing the plot?
I don't know.
Well, this is one that I like I said, someone pointed out last time that he made errors where a character that used to speak English no longer does now. That's hard to catch, and you, I think, thought that was a little pedantic to point out. How about this one, though? I put on my imaginary Detroit Lions ball cap and shifted my brain into Magnum P.I. detective mode. Now, I've never watched Magnum P.I., but even I was like, I think there's something wrong here. And if you Google, it's one of those things where if you Google what type of hat does Magnum P.I. wear, like Google gives you the answer without even referring you to a page. It says Detroit Tigers hat.
Oh, wow.
So, obviously Cline is the sports ball kind of guy, so probably doesn't care, but like it's for a guy whose entire shtick is remembering minute details from 80s garbage. It's pretty hilarious that made it into the print copy of a book, that he got actual team wrong.
Well, again, fire the editor. Right. Those kind of mistakes, they do creep in, but they cannot be allowed to stand in the book.
Right.
This goes through layers of correction. How could that be? How would they let that happen?
Yeah, there was something else I saw that I asked Lauren to take a look at. It was a copywriting issue. Not copyright law, but like it was like a quote. Oh yeah, he says, he whispers, "What the fuck?" But then there's that sentence ends with question mark, comma, quotation mark, which is not grammatically appropriate. And it sounds pedantic, but when you see that written out in a hardcover book, it's like, that's I'm not good at this, and I know that's not correct.
Yeah. I have a quick reel or fanfic right in the middle of the show for you here. You ready? Halliday and Morrow had hired Miles in the early days of the company because he was an ex-Green Beret who also happened to bear a distinct resemblance to a young Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, after serving the company for over a quarter of a century, he resembled a much older post-Governator Arnold.
Fanfic. Try a little harder. That's never make it.
Obviously, fanfic. No.
They hired him because of that.
Yes.
So these two geniuses are sitting around just making the dumbest possible decisions for their company as well.
I mean, but that's a lot of dumb in a single paragraph. That they hired him because he's Schwarzenegger, then having to tell us that a quarter century later he looks older. Mm-hmm. But then calling him post-Governator Arnold in print is like, oh my God.
Right. Why was he not called Arnold in the first one?
I don't know.
You mentioned his name twice. Well, I'm glad that the term Governator endures. That's one that I think is that the impoverished, malnourished trans youth of 2040 are still going to be latched onto.
Yes, certainly. So his investigation continues. He, at one point, he sees something that his blood causes his blood to turn to ice water.
Oh, yeah.
And then a paragraph later, I was starting to panic. So
rank those
that's
sensations.
The progression of how it goes.
You get a lot of those scenes where people would clear the worst things that have ever happened to people, and then as they end, people start to panic or lose their shit or something like that.
Right.
But what makes his blood turn to ice water is this. Nolan Sorrento has just escaped from prison. Sorrento had been serving time on death row in the Southern Ohio Correctional Colony, a maximum security prison located in Chillicothe, Ohio, exactly 56.2 miles due south of where I was currently standing. Let me roll the videotape of Chapter 3.
Yes, please.
Sorrento was now serving time on death row in a maximum security prison in Chillicothe, Ohio, about 50 miles south of Columbus.
Yep.
I'm just going to keep doing them because I just am stunned that they I read that first one and I was like, that sounds familiar because I remember the town name of Chillicothe or whatever. And
we had someone, I think, on Patreon
correct
because I pronounced it and I believe I pronounced it wrong. So I do not remember the correct pronunciation.
Yeah, I'm at this point where if I see it's actually pronounced, my brain just blurs out whatever comes after there.
Right.
Hate to be the one to say this, but it's actually pronounced, and my computer just shuts itself off.
Let's see. Oh, he says, so he's watching the footage. So these two things happen right at the same time, which I find very hilarious because, like, one is his arch nemesis escaping from prison. His best friend disappears. he just like slops those over into the same chapter. Instead of like wringing any drama out of either one of them, they're both just of a piece.
Sure.
Just terrible writing. But he says after all of watching Sorrento escape, because they have all the footage, because even though he was able to shut down the entire prison and do all of this stuff, he was unable to erase the videotapes. Something that Jeffrey, what's his name? Jeffrey
Toobin?
No, Jeffrey, the guy who
Epstein.
Died. Epstein, sorry. The thing that Epstein was
right,
able
yes.
to do. Epstein's killers. Sorry. What?
Right, just satire.
He says, watching the footage, I wondered how Sorrento had managed to coordinate the details of his escape plan with an accomplice on the outside. Yep, that's what's currently on the table. As you sit and watch it happening, you probably are wondering how he was able to do it.
Yes, exactly.
But he describes it all and then tells us that he's wondering how it could be done. It's just terrible.
He's also told us that like every prisoner is like a humanitarian measure, gets an hour of oasis time a day. And so my guess would be that that's how he was able to do it. He probably used that time to coordinate with someone.
Yes.
But we also get this detail, like Ogg's been going around picking up shards as well. He's seeing the leaderboard here, and he says, how had Ogg even been able to pick up the first shard? According to the riddle, only I, Halliday's heir, was supposed to be able to do that. For each fragment, my heir must pay a toll. Except that technically, Ogg was Halliday's heir too. Halliday has willed his entire collection of classic arcade games tomorrow and everything else to the winner of his contest. So I'm gonna put it in my will that you get my my old PSP, and then I'm just gonna spend the rest of my life referring to you as my heir. How does that sound?
Yes.
The battery does not work. You'll need to replace that.
But it's also just, again, dramatically speaking, like saying at the end of Lord of the Rings, like, well, Gollum took the ring and that's that. We failed. The quest has failed. Oh, you know what? You could just throw your keys in there too. That works. He throws his keys in and that works. Like,
Yeah, right.
Just having a thing that then just, oh, well, technically, it's not just the ring that does it.
Yeah, right.
This is your drama, man. Why are there technicalities?
Exactly.
You wrote
it. By creating the Oasis and bequeathing it to humanity, technically we were all his heirs. Turns to the camera and makes an important looking facial expression.
Oh boy. Here's a good one. Language warning. Earmuffs for the kids. What the fuck? I whispered. There was no other appropriate reaction. No other.
Right, yes.
Maybe something intelligent that moved the plot along or gave a hint at character or motivations.
Yeah, something a CEO or a profoundly changed person might say.
Nope.
So that's the thing. In your copy, in the ebook, does it have the question mark, comma, quotation mark for that?
It does not. I don't
Interesting.
think.
All right.
Yeah.
So we've got different. I guess the paperbacks probably had to be out, or the hard copies have to probably be out earlier.
Yeah, that could be.
Well, like all good dramas, this cliffhanger ends with a PR lackey calling shareholders to meet about a serious system stability issue. Yeah,
this is like Star Wars prequel meeting stuff here. This is good. Can't wait for another one of those.
Well, it has to do with a firmware update, and I guess we could just move right on into it with Chapter 9.
Oh, wait, I have one more Sonic challenge, the last thing I have.
Happy to.
I let out a long sigh of frustration. You can pick the period of what constitutes a long sigh of frustration.
Okay. I mean, I'll just imitate what I constantly did while reading the book, I guess.
Okay.
Here.
That's long, yeah.
I'm looking at it, yeah. That's that was 12 seconds.
Mine, I've had to stifle them again because I live with another person where it's long sigh of frustration. Son of a bleep, 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 bleep. Mike, I'm sorry.
Intentionally reading a bad book, honey. I'll be
important work here. Okay. So chapter 9.
Chapter 9 is so this is the shareholder meeting, and this is like I said before, I'm unclear as to why he can't continue his seemingly very important quest to, either get the shard, retrieve his missing buddy, all while this is playing on either like audio feed or a small window inside his Google Glass or whatever, like Tony Stark has.
Right. He goes to the meeting, and we actually get the formalities of a meeting are part of the. So in one chapter, he's tumbled out pretty much 3 things that are just sort of shocking things that all by themselves could have been dramatic beats. Correct?
Yeah, prison escape, kidnapping, and finding the shard. Yes,
in the hands of of someone who knew how to construct a book, those probably would have been 3 separate events.
Or might have happened in the first, 20 pages as opposed to Indiana Jones hanging out with Mr. Belvedere.
Right. So now we've gotten the inciting incident has happened, and so meeting time. Yes. And actually the formalities of the meeting. Good morning, sir. Welcome to the meeting. Please help yourself to some coffee, water, or fresh juice. That.
God, yes.
He comes in and meets Faisal, or how are you pronouncing Faisal?
Faisal, yeah, that works for me. It's
okay.
But yeah, they've got the tray of pastries, I assume, the fruit salad that I'm guessing Sho's probably eaten all the pineapple out of, and someone else has got the good orange melon, so there's just the green dry stuff left.
And the silver coffee thermoses that you tip over and keep tipping and nothing comes out, and a couple minutes later someone sneaks up and pulls it out.
Yeah. But yeah, so we've all been there, not for a while, fortunately for most of us, but we get to, since we haven't been able to attend meetings, it's nice to be able to read about them.
It really is.
But then the shocking thing happens is Faisal sort of has a glitch, and then he morphs into Halliday, who is a middle-aged geek with unkempt hair, thick eyeglasses, dressed in worn jeans, and a faded Space Invaders t-shirt. And believe it or not, we get some insight into. I guess this is Anorak, though. Can you refresh me on that?
It's James Donovan Halliday.
Sure. But then we get this detail, which, if it is news to you, please consult a doctor. Originally, Anorak was Halliday's Oasis avatar, a powerful gray-bearded wizard in ominous black robes that he'd modeled after the high-level D&D character of the same name he'd played back in high school. The same D&D character that also inspired the titular hero in Halliday's early Anorak's Quest adventure game series.
I don't even know.
There needs to be the cut of this where they take out all the repetitive stuff and see what percentage it would reduce the word count by. That would be fascinating.
Oh man, I mean that's a good. I mean, I wonder, that wouldn't be easy to do because he shifts a word here or there.
Yeah, it's not actually Dwight David Thrash, but that is something we know. That is not something we need to be told that, like what you've said, is the third dramatic thing that's actually happened in these first 150 pages.
What's your guess on Anorak descriptions? You searched for Anorak. Did you, at this point, this is the what description of who he was?
Oh man, I mean, if you factor in both books, it was a lot. There was a lot of Anoraks.
Yeah, a lot.
But I couldn't see if you had. I couldn't see that he had referenced Anorak's Quest so far. But it definitely had in the previous books. But yeah, gray-bearded wizard in black robes. Very familiar with that description.
Now, so he appears like this, and there's the melting and morphing and all of that, and so it's Halliday, but then he's Anorak and all of this, and he handles that very poorly. And another thing that he handles poorly is everybody's reaction. It's like, holy shit.
Yes.
All right, is this good thing or bad thing? What is happening? And the way that he metes out the speech of Halliday / Anorak, who, if you need me to describe who Anorak is, I can do that for you quickly.
Sure,
he was
shoot me an
Halliday's
offline.
Oasis avatar. But no, the way he meets it out, you're like, is this? I really don't know whether this is good or bad, but
Right.
he's the arch enemy, but it comes up sort of half-assed at the end, really.
Yeah, because we know that anyone can be anybody, so like we're not sure why this is a big deal.
Yeah,
It could be some other one of Lohengrin's buddies who is now dressed up as him or something, unless his image is off limits.
Yeah, since they're all in their avatars and are they in the third meeting room, or is this one where they're actually in? No, they're actually in a thing here, but
He's
they
in
could be
Spider
in a chat
Coffin,
room.
and then he's in the Oasis, transported to this meeting room.
Right, and only what's her name? Samantha is on a jet.
Yes, that's
but her
true.
connection is good. She does not have any lag. They make that clear at the beginning.
She played for the premium bongo wireless tier or whatever it's called.
Right. Well, she gets to charge it to her one of her charities. So.
Yeah, that's going to be a big scandal in 20 years when all the go-go in-flight entertainment is revealed as to be the primary source of where their donations were going for that.
Right.
But so, yeah, to cut to the chase, Anorak is now the world's first artificial intelligence. Halliday had uploaded his consciousness to the Oasis, which I guess is supposed to be news to us. And that's what these new rigs are able to do. They make a copy of you so that you can now be AI. But his AI has, as they point out, in referencing multiple movies, has gone rogue from what it was intended to do.
Haven't you guys ever seen, what is it, The Shape of the Sword, or what?
I was like, did he take a bet? Did he have a guy who's trying to get Spielberg to make that into a movie? Like, it's so jarringly out of place.
It's so much.
Haven't
you
ever seen Sword Art Online?
Sword Art Online. Real quick, real or fanfic again. I know it's out of place. That was when the molasses between my ears finally began to flow, and a few seconds later, it finally hit me like one of Monty Python's 16-ton weights falling out of the sky and landing directly on my head. I'm sure that'll be a dumb sentence of the week.
One of the most ever submitted dumb sentences on the podcast, yes.
Oh, it is? Okay. Sorry, but I just
fine.
couldn't cross over that one without both mixing a metaphor and being one of the dumbest things on the face of the earth at the same time. In some ways, it's impressive.
Yeah, right. It is. It's you have to tip your hat. Well, he says the AI was supposed to die, but he says, I did not want to die. What I wanted to was to live. And then he follows that up saying, I am the world's first artificial intelligence, which, based on that past exchange, you sort of doubt the intelligence part of it. And then Wade says, oh, you escaped, you helped, what's his name, escape from prison, Sorrento, and the guy says guilty as charged. So all that tension and drama is eliminated right off the bat.
Mm-hmm. There is no finding Og and defeating his mortal enemy are just mashed together in one mushy ball of lame drama.
But you mentioned earlier the reactions people have are great here, and this was my favorite one. They show Og on camera, and he's the classic hostage footage. Dark, featureless room, slumped in a high-end haptic chair. His arms and legs were shackled to it. He was pale and unshaven. His eyes were bloodshot. He wore a vacant expression on his face, and he kept his eyes on the floor. H and Artemis called out Og's name. Shoto asked him if he was all right. Yeah, he looks great. So I'm guessing he's probably all right, Shoto.
Well, yes, you mentioned the intelligence of his avatar here, his AI, which he calls the most intelligent ever, because he has not all the knowledge in the world, basically. Here's just a couple samples of his dialogue of what the most intelligent being literally in the universe is capable of. It's the world's biggest party, and I've just crashed it, he chuckled softly to himself. Get it? It's funny because you can crash a computer simulation, but you can also crash a party. The universe's most intelligent.
Yes, exactly.
Again, I modified the code to create my own version that I jokingly refer to as in firmware.
Yeah, I just said like your character's bad jokes are still bad jokes, Like there's no, like you said, that's not a hacky road comic or a dad. It's the world's most powerful AI.
Do you think that? Well, no. What am I saying? I was about to attribute to him. Well, you got to give it to him an evil character who doesn't pet a cat and have a patch over his eye and utter threats in a low voice. It's like just this frickin' idiot doing the worst dad jokes in the world. If I didn't know that was the most he was capable of, I would attribute it to his own intelligence. But
right,
I can't do that.
But I thought it was hilarious too. So the guy creates the term in firmware, which we already had a word for malware, but he's decided to make it a terrible joke. And then like a page or two later, he's saying, "You aren't the only ones trapped in the Oasis right now," Anorak announced. "So was every other ONI user who downloaded the new firmware before they logged in." So he doesn't even want to stick with it. He probably knows it wasn't that great. But then a page or two later, "As usual, your faithful employee Faisal here logged in for work promptly at 7 o'clock this morning, just a few minutes after my new in firmware went live." So he's just, I guess he's still getting used to calling it. So it's like when you try to get a nickname going for yourself, it's hard to stick with it until it really takes hold. But
yeah, I noticed you haven't called me Mad Dog in a while. So
sorry, I got it.
Yeah,
it's a tricky thing to get back on there.
But yeah, so this is a chapter where the dialogue is really flowing, and I'll give you an example. "Guys, I'm about to lose my shit over here," Shoto said as he began to shake his head vigorously from side to side. That would be a good Sonic challenge. "Guys, I'm about to lose my shit over here."
And is that translated from Japanese?
I don't.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Is that a thing we're doing anymore? Anorak just went Sonic EXE on us. This is so bad. M dash. What is Sonic EXE, by the way?
I'll tell you, I posted it right here. The story of Sonic EXE starts in 2011 when a web user by the name JC the Hyena posted a short story to the Creepypasta wiki that described this disturbing and violent Sonic game his friend supposedly played. Mailed him. It came with a warning that he should not play it. It's like an online forum post that was essentially, what if The Ring was a Sonic the Hedgehog game is what I gained. Because I stopped reading after that, what I posted there, because I did not need to know any more about that.
Gotcha. All right.
But that's, so between that and you guys all watched both Sword Art Online and the Matrix films, we're getting an interesting window into, I guess, what Ernest Cline's been up to over the past decade.
Right. We also get the bit of fanfic or reel that most assuredly fooled me. Mad Mardigan's line from Willow.
Yes.
is in here. Which Never could have predicted that.
Yeah, that's what the AI recognizes. I also like this. So the CEO, Sorrento, has just served 3 years hard time in a supermax prison. So talk about something that might impact a guy profoundly, and to reiterate, he was the CEO of the biggest company in the world before that time. Mm-hmm. Here's him appearing on stage on screen next to the being tortured Ogden. "Paybacks are a real bitch," Sorrento said, grinning down at me from the view screen. Parzival? He cackled again. "Oh man, I wish you guys could see the expressions on your faces right now." He tapped his HUD to the screen to take a screenshot, then turned us around to show us our own horrified faces and added, "Priceless." So yeah, he's been in the hole. He's been in solitary for 23 hours a day, and he's coming out saying, payback's a bitch, and calling him Parzival still.
He's just a hair above Obadiah Stane in this regard. Just full out growling.
And I really liked this. This struck me as actually funny, unlike in firmware and whatever the other joke he made. Faisal gasps, "It's true! I can't log out! I can't log out!" So just imagining an adult screaming, "I can't log out" is very funny. It's like a drill tweet or something.
Oh, I think I have a lot of dumb sentences in here, so I have to...
I do too. And
I have to save that, but I do get this. He describes then how he's holding everyone hostage because obviously they can't get out of their O&I unit, and that causes you to have all these. We've already described it, right? You go brain dead or whatever. But then he says, one of the dirty secrets about SOS was that several of the early test subjects who had lost their lives to it had literally died laughing. Mm-hmm. This is your product. You're the CEO. This is your dirty secret. What are you talking about? It's not a secret to you. You climb into it willingly every day.
Right. Yeah. I guess that could be the disabled people and that they were doing their Mangle experiments on, referenced in the last time we read.
Oh, I guess, but that was under his direction, right? I mean, he knew that. He had to pay off people who died from it.
True, yes.
So it wasn't a secret. He's like openly had to go to court and defend himself and then pay out massive amounts of money to people who he's either killed. Yeah, he said they killed a couple people. Right,
yeah. So, I mean, Facebook people are angry at Mark Zuckerberg about, like, you know, Facebook turned my dad into a raving conspiracy theorist. If you had actually, like, caused a disabled parent to die laughing from this new rig, you'd have people just, like, throwing blood on you wherever you walked. Right. There'd be endless protests. Like, it's there. You are, you know, history's greatest monster at this point in time.
So yeah, plot wise, he tells him get all the shards for me. And what does that do that unlocks him to be a regular human or something? I don't know. What.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think we know, but there's just a
treasure
hunt.
I'm not going to tell you. That's right.
Oh yeah, I got to read it. I'm burning some sentences here, but just to reiterate, okay. the most expansive and greatest AI the world has ever known.
Yes.
Excellent, Anorak said, using a Mr. Burns voice.
Yes.
Then he switched back to his own. Woo boy, talk about a high stakes treasure hunt. So once again, you know, referencing a line that could be in a movie trailer or something. This guy actually said that in his book about. We know it's a high stakes treasure hunt. You just paid $1 billion for the first clue. And then he says, hey, are you the kind of kids who read to the last page of a mystery first, who pester the magician to tell you his tricks, who sneak downstairs to peek at their Christmas presents? Anorak shook his head. No, of course you're not. That's why I'm not gonna tell you. He sang that last bit, then gave us all a knowing smile. My friends and I exchanged another look of disbelief. Now he was quoting The Last Starfighter to us. So, like, is Ogden sort of, like, struggling to raise his head, being like, stop being impressed by Last Starfighter quotes, you fucking morons. Like, please, I beg of you.
I've soiled myself 3 times this morning.
Right. Oh, so...
but he says this is a question for listeners. What's her name? Samantha is on the private jet, I assume flying somewhere for one of her humanitarian efforts, right? Mm-hmm. And so the rest of them have to get out before they all get their brains scrambled or they die laughing or whatever. Mm-hmm. But he says about her, don't worry, I've arranged for your jet to be refueled in midair when you reach Columbus. Is that a thing? That jets that aren't equipped to be refueled, can they? I mean, I guess it's 2043, right?
Yeah. You think that, like, it's just a military thing that you need to be able to fly in sync with the refueling unit and stuff?
I just don't. Maybe
she's in theory on just a Gulfstream, right? Your classic.
Yeah. This should have been a place where he said, in 2037, all planes were required to be equipped with mid-air refueling nets. This is done when a tube is extended from the fueling tank into the, but
yeah. No. Or, Artemis's like an initiative that she had done 2 years ago was to eliminate jet fuel and, high conversion solar powers that every plane was now outfitted with, that it, reduced carbon emission by 50%. Like,
right.
She was celebrated as the greatest hero for doing that.
Right.
I mean, towards a, Christopher Nolan style action set piece type of thing.
I don't know.
I don't think they're making this into a movie.
Oh, well, that's all I got.
Yeah. What he calls them hairless apes. That was good.
Yeah.
That's a callback to, I think, Cline's one of his less revolting spoken word pieces.
I think we get 3 or 4
hairless
apes, and evolved too, and all of that.
And then I like this one. Just it's from a thing you notice when you read bad things, what to not do if you're writing. He waited for a response, but his words had left me too apoplectic with rage to reply. And I realized you're rarely apoplectic with something other than rage. You know, you're not apoplectic with hunger. You're not apoplectic with joy. So it might be just a turn of phrase you could just strike from your stable as a writer, I would say.
If you take away his cliches, what kind of man is he? What does he have then?
And then it ends with another Ogden moment. He might have protested as he's, as Sorrento is getting the knotted rope to, whack him like Le Chiffre in Casino Royale. He says, it fell silent in the conference room for a few seconds, and then we all began to collectively freak the fuck out. Ogden has got to be like, please, at least freak the fuck out a little bit while I'm showing here, and my retina is detached from the torture. Please, just exhibit a bit of concern then too.
Right. I just saw a thing about the real story of the Inglorious Bastards. Oh. And at the end of it all, the leader of it is hanging upside down by a pole as the head of the SS is just like beating him to death. But it's a happy ending. He ends up he lives, and there's a bloodless end to the surrender of the town that he was doing his stuff in. But
wow.
Yeah, imagine him doing that while making references to Ferris Bueller scene where he sings the Beatles. More, please.
What if, thematically of the time, what if Mr. Gower had banged Violet? That would have been funny, right? You guys know what I'm talking about.
This guy gets it.
Wow. So yeah, that takes us to a page that ends with a very auspicious, recognizable symbol as the next segment of the book is about to start. Level 5. We see the iconic Prince symbol. And a quote from July 19th, 1999.
Oh, is that from 1999?
There's some other lyric. I have no idea. I didn't look up it's cool to use the computer. Don't let the computer use you. But so I think that was the thing that we all had spoiled for us in the review. But Prince himself, I think, is going to make an appearance here.
Did you have to license the symbol?
That's a good question.
The glyph? He had to, right?
I mean, whoever's in charge of the estate now is probably looking for some opportunities, I would guess.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there it is.
Which means maybe we could have licensed Prince songs if they're taking calls from Ernest Cline.
I don't know if they took his call. It's just like, the agent, like, Cline, yeah, it's $4 million. Right. Cline's like, yeah, okay, fine.
But yeah, all right, let's move on to dumb sentences.
A sentence begins with a capital letter. A capital letter is a letter that's big. A capital letter is not a small letter. A capital letter is big, big, big. A sentence ends with a period, or an exclamation, or a question mark. A sentence always ends.
Yeah, I burned a few, but there's always more.
Yes. Sometimes a sentence ends with a question mark, then a comma, and then a quotation mark. So I guess sometimes.
In certain editions.
That's in verse 8 of the song. There we go. This is dumb sentences submitted by our listeners, many of whom are the aforementioned Patreon supporters, which is over at patreon.com/372pages. Hit us up there. It is a place where good things happen. This one is from Chris. It was heartbreakingly fitting that these kids had nicknamed themselves the Low Five because the bond that Lohengrin shared with her friends reminded me of the one I'd shared with the other members of the High Five during the contest. And Chris said, what bond? The 5 of them met once. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
But they didn't even have plans to move into a big mansion with a classic arcade in the bottom of it.
Where did they meet for the one time that they met? Was it at that Rivendell recreation?
I guess so, yeah.
The one picture.
The what now?
No, sorry.
Yeah. This is Scott. I modified the code to create my own version that I jokingly refer to as in firmware. He says, I almost pulled a Mike Nelson and tossed my laptop across the room. Then we get Tom H. Whoa, I heard myself whisper. And he said, Arg, I heard myself shout as I tossed the book across the room. This is Justine. She said, I hate how this line both exists and is somehow one sentence. As soon as I got my bearings, 2 stacks of golden Marshall amplifiers magically appeared on either side of Halliday's golden Easter egg, and a hauntingly familiar song blasted out of them at an ear-splitting volume, Push It, by Salt and Pepper. Jay, Harris, and Lucas all submitted the Monty Python molasses between my ears line.
Yeah, sorry, couldn't let it pass. Sometimes you just gotta burn.
Yeah, people would be frustrated if you didn't address it in real time. Andrew submitted... this is, again, the teens these days. They referred to it as rolling reel. That means not using any emotion suppressing software.
That's right.
Sarah submitted this one. A few minutes after my head hit the pillow, I drifted off to sleep. But she just says, not the dumbest sentence on its own, but just think about it. He spent years searching for this. And he's talking about how excited he is. Also, Salt and Pepper's Push It is playing in his head, but he just calmly drifts off to sleep is not how the real world works. Colby submitted, thanks to the humanitarian efforts of GSS and Amnesty International, all U.S. prison inmates were now allowed 1 hour of heavily restricted, fully monitored Oasis access during the day. And he said, Wade could use his countless wealth and power to restructure the entire way prisons work using his technology. But instead, we get another scene of the richest man in history patting himself on the back for doing the absolute minimum. So, yeah, that was Amnesty International was probably like, eliminate solitary confinement, maybe like work out the death penalty, feed them more nutritious meals, like not charge them for soap. He's like, nah, hour of Oasis time. Hayden submitted... Mr. Halliday, he said, bowing low before the creator's avatar. And he said, just to hammer this home one more time, this is Shoto. He clearly speaks English, and Cline forgot earlier. And I'd also the bow, which, Cline rings the mental gong every time this character does something.
Oh, yeah. He leapt out of his chair and then immediately bowed at one point. Yeah.
Was he also going, while he bowed, too? Yes. Eric submitted just the classic succinct, I checked Gunterpedia. That was in Fanfic last time, and I looked it up. Gunterpedia makes at least one more appearance in the book, so it wasn't just a one-off. Colin submitted, it's just, this is Lohengrin, it's just, that's a lot of Zenny for me. And he said, it's $1 billion. That's a lot of Zenny for anybody. And Zenny, someone wrote in to say that it's a reference to like a fictional currency used in the greater Capcom gaming universe.
Well, yeah, $1 billion is half of Rivendell Recreations.
Right. Amanda submitted, this one is very Cline. Tell me we don't have some epic shit going down right here. I believe that's also the most intelligent AI that's ever existed who said that.
Mm-hmm.
This one's submitted by Mike. That was when I realized that I just said holy shit out loud.
Oh, wow, I missed that.
Yeah, he said, why? There was nothing about Halliday's subsequent greeting that had anything to do with the exclamation. At this point, he's just saying things without realizing it, and realizing it without prompting, just because Cline can't write dialogue that if it were just written out normally, wouldn't be down at the C-Spot Run level. When C-Spot Run is coming up twice in the same podcast about your book, that's not a good sign. Here's one more that's more of the drilling down from Steven. If you attempted to teleport to a location inside the Oasis that was already occupied by an object or another avatar, the system would automatically adjust your arrival coordinates to the closest unoccupied location. Again, just why he says, why do we get such granular detail for stupid things like that?
It's amazing, and it's something that everyone's all familiar with. That's how games work, yes. You appear inside of another character, yes.
Yeah, unless it's a clipping glitch that you're like exploiting for a speed run.
Yeah.
Jeff said, whether I was online or offline, dreaming or awake, the image of my face reflected in the surface of the big red button was always lurking at the back of my mind, and those lyrics were playing on an endless loop, telling me over and over again that I should not only push it, but the sensible thing would be for me to go the extra mile and push it real good. That's one sentence.
I hated the way that he tried to make that, a joke in the middle of it.
Yeah.
You know, like, then go ahead and do the sensible thing. Like, no. You don't get to do that right here. You're actually saying that your character has an endless loop of push it in his head. So you have to deal with that fact. And if you don't think we're going to exploit that as we go through this book,
right, yes.
you are wrong, sir.
And then Jacob just submitted this succinct. I feel like this line encapsulates the very essence of Ernest Cline's life. You want to know my favorite Bill Murray quote? I asked. Oh, and let's see what else I've got that hasn't been used.
I've got this is, it's like that game. Have you ever played that game? I think it's called Just One, where someone has to, you have to give someone clues as to what is on the card, but you can only use one word. And if you use a word that someone else used, then those clues are discounted. So you have to think, like, what is the seventh thing down on the list?
Yeah, right.
And then still someone else is thinking that same thing.
Right.
And so that's kind of what Dumb Sentences is now. It's like, look, this one is obviously going to be burned.
Right.
So I have to go with a less spectacular one, but that's nevertheless very dumb. Everyone swiveled their eyes to look at me.
So they rotated back through into their head?
They rotated only their eyes. Just say everyone, turned to look at me. Everyone swiveled their eyes, but nothing else. Like, so it's like a cartoon painting from a Abbott and Costello horror movie. Like, what?
They all look like the classic Kit Kat clock, the clock which was normally mistaken for Felix the cat, although they were different intellectual properties.
Yeah, you do. You have that in your head now, don't you?
Tick tock tick. I had a couple. I had this is regarding one of the low five. She appeared to be going for a turn of the century edgy emo look. When that's the level of description we're getting, it's you can picture that, but it's not. He hasn't earned the description there. He's just sort of told us something that we already know. Like
didn't even do the Doc Martens, which is always the tip off. Wow.
Right. He didn't even. Yeah, it's the collection of classic 80s dance moves that he said before. This one is, you know how in Peter Jackson's film adaptation of The Two Towers, there's a scene where King Theoden places a Cymbeline on Theodred's tomb?
Wow.
So he's hung up on saying in the film adaptations.
Yeah, I think that's in the book. I don't know. Does he not like the book? He only likes the movie?
I don't know why we're getting that. But then my dumbest one of the thing is, I suddenly found myself standing just inside the chat room's entrance.
Oh, wow.
Suddenly is another one I think is a good one to go through your writing and strike from things. Unless it's I'm not sure, a bomb going off. But
yeah, it's the equivalent of, I think I read a thing about writing screenplays. Don't ever write smash cut to. It's like, that's what cuts are. They cut to something. You get the sense, but someone saw it in a script once, and so anybody's script that you read, it has smash cut to. Like, no, you're just cutting. It's just cutting to it.
Nice. Well, that goes for the dumb sentences. Please continue to submit yours, and we can read some emails to end.
I imagine there's a lot.
Just a couple. We don't have to read them all,
Yeah, but I mean, we probably got a lot because I can imagine the rage needs to be let out somewhere.
There is, yes. Once again, as I think we said with clues for, advice for fanfic last time, succinct is often better. You open up an email and it looks like an entire chapter of an Ernest Cline book. That might not be one that gets read the whole way, or at all.
It looks like a shadow moon. Well then.
Oh, please, yes. I curl up with it in front of a fireplace and just pour a cup of tea and enjoy it. Here is this one is from Justin. My cat is attacking Ready Player 2. He also attacked Shadow Moon and Bob Honey. I might have a furry movie critic on my hands.
Is that the physical book, I assume?
Yes.
Not like hearing the words read out loud and going bananas.
But yeah, I'm not going to Google whether there are furry movie critics, but I have to imagine there are, whether they're furries who review movies or whether they're movie critics who evaluate movies, whether furries would like them. I don't know.
Or are there furry-based movies?
Yeah. Or is there depiction of furries fair in this movie type of thing?
Right.
So yeah, they were scathing on the furry depictions in Saving Private Ryan. They were not treated with respect in that movie. This is from Jill. She said, "This is not Ready Player 2, but something else I noticed recently. There's a scene in a Chris Claremont written comic, Gen 13, Volume 3, Issue 5, 2002, that features a character turning into the floor. Clearly, Claremont thought this was the best part of the Shadow Moon novel too, and was so good that he had to reuse it." And she sent those pages and panels. There was a character who turned into the floor and started attacking other people. So I'll post those on Twitter.
Holy moly.
This is from Justine. He says, Cline decided to make a reference to the creepypasta Sonic EXE in this segment, so we have some more info here. This reference, along with the Minecraft creepypasta to Herobrine in the same chapter. I did not pick up on that.
I looked that one up and I saw the creepypasta thing and I stopped reading as well. So
yeah, I do not need to use, say, or read the word creepypasta as someone who's as old as I am. But she says, that makes me inclined to think Cline is trying to be hip with the kids. These are some deep-cut references into Gen Z internet culture we didn't see in the first book. My current theory is that his daughters are either helping him with the references this time around, or he's actively looking over their shoulders at what they're doing and frantically taking notes. Honestly, either one is weird to me. This next one is from Tommy. This is another thing that's manifesting itself into real life. Not just in Cline books or Claremont books. He says, "Hi, Patreon supporter, but first time writing in. I was playing Cyberpunk 2077 this week and found," that's the newest big video game, "and found this text log in the game about watching yourself give birth in VR. They call it brain dance in this game, but it's functionally just what Cline is picturing. I'm 100% sure he's playing this game right now, so I'm sure he'll appreciate the obvious homage to Ready Player 2. Is this a sci-fi trope now? What the hell is going on? I've literally never even considered this idea before, and it's popped up twice in the past 2 months."
Wait, say it again. What is it? It's watching
yourself give birth or watching yourself being born, that was like what he referenced as one of the first things you could do with the ONI.
Right. I just couldn't remember whether it was giving birth or being born. Yeah.
That was the Cline variant too, but yeah, I don't know why I guess that's a shocking thing that people are, if you're doing what shocking things people are using VR for, that's about as weird as it would get. And finally, Lucas says, along with the settle down response, I don't think we issued one this episode. "I would like to suggest a new stock phrase for Cline's book, Who Cares? Cline's strategy to world building seems to be crowbarring useless facts at any given situation. We learned that some Gunters tried and failed to give themselves a new name. Who cares? We learned that avatars can blush at the same time as their users. Who cares? We learned that Oasis cannot teleport an avatar to an unoccupied space. Who cares? I think this phrase will get a lot of mileage before the book is over."
Well, you'd have to say, what do you care about?
Yes, I guess so. But I do not care about a lot of this. I find some of the stuff amusing, though. So, yeah, I mean, if we don't care about the book as a whole, we can just put it down right now. But there is entertainment.
We do care when the world's greatest intelligence comes into the room and begins hurling out third-grade insults. I guess I care about that.
Yeah, there's entertainment to be found in the book, and so yeah.
For sure.
If who cares is not is the response, then would make for a pretty short podcast.
Right. Yeah, I just mean more when he stops. Anything that's parenthetical is always a thing that you're probably not going to care about, except that he then strays into, it's the thing we always say about bad movies. Why this unforced error? Why did you stop and give us more fodder for something really stupid that no one was asking the question and you answered it and it's the wrong answer?
Yes.
Those are delightful.
That sums it up pretty well. All right. Well, I think for next time, we can read through chapter 16. That should hopefully contain many more things that we both do not care and care deeply about at the same time.
All right. Wow. That was quite a trip.
Quite a trip, yes. And I'm not sure when that next one will be, but hopefully everyone has a happy new year and everything else before that. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, etc.
As far as the reading, please remember to push it real good. and keep that in your head at all times.
yeah. Reader challenge: who can listen to it on repeat for the most amount of time? Right into how long you were able to do that before you actively went insane.
And we will require the tape of it happening too. So, we'll watch the whole thing. All right, this is 372 pages. We'll never get back. Michael J. Nelson here.
Connor Listoka signing off. Everybody, bye.